Hi everyone, my name is Alex Markin and I am from the Rhode Island Intensive Math Intervention Project. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm going to be modeling how to conduct a revised number talk that can be done virtually or through distance learning. Typically, a number talk is done using mental math and students limit their use of paper pencil or other manipulatives. However, since we are no longer in a physical classroom together, there are a few modifications that can be made so that you can still assess students' thinking and students can still engage together. We will be discussing these modifications today. I started by selecting a grade level standard that would make for a good number talk. Since number talks focus on computation fluency, I chose a computation problem, not a word problem. Today we will be focusing on adding 2- and 3-digit numbers, a third grade standard. Today, we will be reviewing how to conduct an asynchronous number talk, or a number talk that is not being done live. In this situation, this slide would be the only one that I would post. I would instruct students to spend a few minutes solving this problem without using a calculator. Each student would need to document their thinking and upload it to Google Classroom, ClassDojo, or whatever application I am using. For example, students could upload a quick video explaining their thinking aloud, like we would do during a typical number talk. Alternatively, students could take a picture of their work for solving the problem and then upload that picture to Google Classroom. Students would then be responsible for reviewing and commenting on the work of at least 2 to 3 of their peers. Students would also reflect on the strategies that their peers used and determine if they got the same final answer. Using this method, students continue to be exposed to the thinking of their peers and engaged in the process, which are two critical elements of a number talk. An alternative option would be to host a virtual number talk live using Zoom or another meeting platform. In this situation, I would pose the problem to students and then have students solve the problem mentally. Students would then raise their hands on camera or use the hand-raised platform icon so that I can call on them directly. I would also have a piece of paper or a whiteboard where I could document students' thinking as they explained it to me. This approach is similar to a typical number talk routine that you are familiar with. Regardless of the method that I decide to use for conducting a virtual number talk, I will be reviewing students' answers to determine the following. Number 1, which strategies were students using to solve the problem? Was I surprised by any of these strategies, and did students use efficient strategies? Number 2, which students struggled to solve the problem correctly? I want to follow up with those students individually. And then number 3, are there strategies that none of my students used? If so, I would upload a video of myself solving the equation using that missing strategy so students continue to be exposed to different ways to solve the problem. If I were doing my number talk live using Zoom, I would make sure at the very end to review that particular strategy with students. This is especially important during this time of distance learning, as we don't want students to forget the various strategies that we have learned this year. In the following slides, I demonstrate some different ways that students could use to solve this particular problem. If you notice a strategy missing as you go through and do these number talks with your students, you could upload a quick 2-minute video of yourself using that missing strategy. Feel free to use these slides as a model. So when I first looked at this problem, I noticed that 19 is really close to 20. I know that 20 is a landmark number and it's going to be much easier to use. So I started by adding 19 plus 1 to make 20. Then I added 186 plus 20, which I was able to do mentally and got 206. I could also have skip counted by tens, such as 186 plus 10 is 196, and then 196 plus 10 is 206. Now remember, I added 1 at the start in order to make 19 an even 20, so now I have to subtract that 1. 206 minus 1 equals 205. My final answer is 186 plus 19 equals 205. Another way that I could have solved this problem is through using manipulatives. There are many virtual manipulatives available for free, such as the mathlearningcenter.org. I started by demonstrating this equation visually. 186 is made up of 1 100, 8 tens, and 6 ones. That is what you can see on the left-hand side of my screen. 19 is made up of 1 10 and 9 ones, and this is what you see on the right-hand side of my screen. I'm going to start by adding my tens together, or my cubes that are in green. So I'm going to add 80 plus 10 equals 90. Now I'm going to look at my ones, or my cubes that are in red. If I have 90, I know that one more group of 10 will make 100. So I'm going to add 4 more ones to my cubes of 6 here in order to make a 10th 10, or 100. So I'm going to add 4 ones blocks, and I'm going to send them over to my 6 blocks in order to make a 10. So now I have 90 plus 10 equals 100, and I also have 5 ones. So now I'm going to add everything together. 100 plus 100 plus 5 equals 205. I got the same answer as when I added using landmark numbers. Another way that I could solve this problem is using a number line. I'm going to start with 186. Since it's my largest number, it's going to make it much easier to use my number line if I start there. Then I'm going to decompose 19 into 110 and 9 ones, so that's easier for me to jump on my number line. I'm going to start by jumping 10, so I'm going to go from 186 to 196. Now I'm going to make 9 smaller jumps to get to 205. I could also have made another big jump of 10 from 196 to 206, and then jumped backwards by 1 in order to get to 205. Once again, I got the same answer as when I used landmark numbers and base 10 blocks. Another strategy that I could use is decomposing. Since 186 is a big number, it may be easier for me to break it up into smaller, more friendly numbers. I'm going to start by decomposing 186 into 1 100, 8 tens or 80, and 6 ones. Then I'm going to decompose 19 into 110 and 9 ones. Then I'm going to add up all these smaller numbers. Since there's no 100 in 19, 100 plus 0 equals 100. Then I'm going to add together 80 plus 10 equals 90, and 6 plus 9 equals 15. Now I have to add all of these together. So I start with 90 plus 15 equals 105, and then 100 plus 105 equals 205. So once again, I got the same answer. Now the last strategy that I'm going to try is the standard algorithm. I'm going to start by aligning these numbers vertically. Remember, the ones need to be in the same column. As a reminder, we are going to be moving from right to left. I'm going to start by adding 6 plus 9, which I know equals 15, and I'm going to regroup the 10. Now I'm going to add the tens column, or 8 plus 1 plus 1, except this is the tens column, so it's actually 80 plus 10 plus 10 equals 100. So once again, I'm going to regroup. Last, I'm going to add the 100s column. So I'm going to be adding 100 plus 100, which equals 200. And so once again, my final answer is 205. Now I've demonstrated several different strategies, and all of them resulted in a final sum of 205. If your students are missing one of the strategies that I just reviewed, or another strategy that you've spent time teaching in your classroom earlier this year, then you can create your own video that shows that particular strategy in action. You could model it on paper and record yourself, use a PowerPoint presentation, or a whiteboard to document the strategy and share it with students. Remember, the purpose here is student engagement, so we want them to be doing most of the thinking. So don't upload your video until each student has shared his or her work and commented or reflected on the work of at least 2 to 3 peers. We just reviewed a few different methods for conducting a number talk virtually. However, you can be creative. If you use any of these recommendations or try another method in your virtual classroom, we would love to hear from you. These are my colleagues on the Rhode Island Intensive Math Intervention Project, and we want to support you in your transition to distance learning. This is just one video in what will be a series to come, and we hope that you find these resources helpful.